Welcome everybody, my name is Paul Smyers. I'm a real estate professional in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about some tips on buying land, specifically in Virginia. And I'm going to use this visual aid here for a moment here and let you observe. I live actually down around here, and this whole area up here is the Shenandoah Valley. As you can see, there's the Blue Ridge Hills going up this way, and then this is one little area here of a ridge line, and then over to toward the west you have West Virginia and the western part of Virginia, and you can see kind of the beautiful Shenandoah Valley, and over here on this side towards Charlottesville. It's just absolutely beautiful. There's a beautiful river valley, the Shenandoah Valley. The Shenandoah River is up here. It flows north, and I'm down here on this side here where what they call the South River, that ultimately flows into the Shenandoah River and then flows out to the rest of Virginia. Now, as you can just take a little glimpse at this is a 3D map and kind of get an idea of how the terrain is. Now, when you're looking for land for homesteading, a lot of people, that's what they're doing. They're looking for land for homesteading, and they want to maybe raise a family, and they don't want to be too far away from a city. So I talk to people who are looking for land, and I say, look, there's one thing that you really need to think about, and that is the zoning. We're fortunate here in Virginia that the long history of homesteading and private farms, of which there are the most in any state here in Virginia, private farms, it's a long tradition here, and the land is suitable for it. As I showed you in that little map there, there's beautiful areas of Virginia that are just kind of rolling, beautiful farmland. We have a modest climate here, where I live in central Virginia here. They say roughly maybe 2 feet of snow a year. That's nothing compared to upstate New York, for example, where I used to live. So we have a beautiful climate here, and there's a lot of variety of terrain. If you want to live in the hills and mountains and be out in the forest somewhere, you can get that here in Virginia. But if you want to have a homestead that's roughly near a school for your children and so on, and not too far away from things that you might need, like a big hospital or school or something, you can also get within 10-15 minutes of a major town and have everything you need there and still be in a really quiet location where there's rural zoning. Again, the zoning. And when you look for land also, you want to know if there's any easements on the property. There could be an utility easement, such as like a power line going across there might be an easement across your property to reach some landlocked land somewhere in there, and they apply for an easement, and maybe there's an old logging trail long ago or something like that. And you want to be careful about buying land that has an easement. Now, if the land is going across your property, you just kind of subject to, okay, they got to cross my property to get their property. On the other hand, you might be the person that is the one that's crossing someone else's land to get your property. So there's, it's not a problem really sometimes, because there's long time easements that have been established for a long time, and they're in the deed and so on, and you won't have any problem with that. But you just need to know about it and so on. So that's one thing. Now, access is another thing. A lot of people have this fantasy, we're going to run out in the countryside and buy some rural land, but electricity goes along a lot of the gravel roads of Virginia, and there's a lot of electric power spread out, and that's been established for quite a long time now. But when it comes to city water and the septic system and so on, you know, you get a few miles out of town, and the city does not want to bring the whole septic system out to the land that you happen to be buying. So you're going to end up having to put a well in, and you want to make sure that it's capable of putting a well in. Now, we're fortunate in Virginia, there's an awful lot of water. We got tons and tons of rain, and we got streams and so on, and even in the driest periods, there's gullies where there's water flowing and so on, and there's underground water. So water is usually not a problem in Virginia, except sometimes it's maybe too much of a problem, because if you have too much water, some of the lower lying areas where the rivers get wide, where they swell from the mountain streams, you might want to be careful about buying land near one of these larger streams and rivers, because occasionally they'll flood quite big, you know, and some real problems can happen. So think about the zoning, think about the water supply, think about the septic tank, where it's going to go. There's areas where it's very difficult to build a septic tank without causing a lot of expense. You want soil that will percolate and run the water drainage. So there's things like that you need to consider, and there's things that you might want to consider about whether there's other valuable things on the property. Is there fencing on the property? That's nice. If there's a pond, that's great. If there's a spring, there's a lot of springs in Virginia. A lot of people don't know they might have a spring on their property. And that was the way that they brought water to houses for many, many years, long before we had the modern well drilling. So there's various factors to look at when you think about property. There's the taxes are low on agricultural land here in Virginia, and that's a really good thing. There's a lot of support economically. Certain land, like agricultural 2 is 2 acres per agricultural lot, and on agricultural land is very liberal. You can usually do pretty much anything, especially if you get a little permission from the county. You might want to get permission for certain kinds of things. Maybe if you're going to have a big, huge campsite, a lot of times they will allow it, but you know, if you have a small campsite or something, that's a little different. So there's areas where you cannot put a mobile home, but in Virginia, it's a very common thing. You see some mobile homes and some very, very nice land, actually. So you can buy something like that, and you can buy a property that maybe used to have a house on it, already has a septic and well, maybe it's old, you can reactivate it and so on. So there's a lot of things to look at when you buy land. I encourage people to contact me and correspond with me. I have other videos on this subject, and I appreciate your time listening to me, and I hope you like and share. If you find anything valuable here, please tell your friends and come back and visit. I make more videos and hope to see you in some of my other content. Thanks.